Clojure space, like blogs and stuff. I have a blog as well. The reason I'm doing it is just to demystify Clojure. I mean, it's not that hard, and it's really, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's easy on the eyes, right? It's fun to look at. I love to look at Clojure. I just love to look at it, right? I mean, some people, I mean, how can you say that about Java, right? I mean, I don't know many people that can, right? Because it's so verbose, right? And it's like a lot to look at, right? A lot to digest, right? And there's a lot of power in like high order functions, right? You said you were working at TaxBit, right? From the video I seen. What do you guys do? What's going on over there?
Yeah, we are I'm glad you asked. We are a cryptocurrency tax solutions platform. So we basically will ingest all of your trading activity, all of your, any kind of Bitcoin activity you've done, and we will essentially calculate your tax liability for that year, and then also automatically file on your behalf. And then we have professional accountants that can kind of help you out and get involved and assess your tax position, and then give you a helping hand as well. So it's primarily automated. In fact, right now it's entirely automated. We're discussing the option potentially to go to be able to provide assist when and where needed as well. So
Right.
yeah, so it's cool. I've been there I think 2 months now, coming up on 2 months. And it's a lot of fun. It's a really great team, really great company. Like, that's the thing about being in finance, right? Like, we're funded and we're making money. So, you know, we're in a position where we can be very selective about what funding we take on. And we're hiring, more importantly. So we are hiring. So anyone who might want to consider, our main preference right now is for Utah, but anyone who might consider relocating or being some percentage remote and on site, we'd love to talk to
you. Yeah.
Probably make that announcement again, but Zubair had asked about what we're doing at the Clojure specific.
Yeah, I want to hear from the other folks. I seen one other gentleman join, Matthew Cheney, and then we got Yuri, and then we have a few others. So I definitely want to hear. I want to hear what everyone's doing, and then we'll kind of like go like present and stuff. The other lovers of Lisp, you know what I mean?
Right on. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, we're right at 7 now, so we could just get on with the introduction festivities.
Okay.
Yeah, well, here, I'll make a little official opening announcement. So welcome, everyone, to Clojure-Provo. I know it looks like we have about 8 or 9 people here. You've all got your mics muted, but I can see you there, so haha, you can't hide. So welcome. And so we'll get into the presentation shortly. I'm Jacob, by the way, one of the co-hosts here, and the presentation will be given today by Zubair on continuous coverage in Clojure. So anyway, why don't we start out, just do like quick introductions so we can all say hi. I'll just start up. So like I mentioned, I'm Jacob O'Brien. I'm actually no longer living in Utah, but I was recently, and I'm now in Washington, not too far from Seattle. And I am a startup founder, so not making money with Clojure, but I am doing it full time. So at least there's that. Not looking to hire anyone yet, but hopefully soon. And that's me. And I like long walks on the beach. All right, cool. Brian, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Brian Abbott. Jacob and I are partners on this group. Yeah, I've been doing Clojure now for about, I guess I officially started on February 5th, 2019. I know the exact date very well, when I did my first poll. And yeah, I've loved it ever since then. I've always wanted to do a functional language. And so Clojure was really my first opportunity to do it commercially, of course. And so, yeah, I love the language, I love the community, and I'm really passionate about helping to foster and grow communities in most specifically with Clojure, but then also more generally in functional languages to give both providers and developers confidence in being able to make that transition. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, maybe let's just go down the list. Actually, I was going to say let's go down the list, but it keeps changing order. So
I can go.
Hey, Dan.
Perfect.
Sorry, yeah. So my name's Daniel Bell. I've been writing Clojure for for really long, actually, like since 2010. I wish I could say it's made me rich and famous, but not yet. Maybe next year.
Whoa! I worked with Russ Olson, who worked at FGM, and he works now at Cognitech, which got bought out by Nubank. And I started in 2011, and I didn't even know what Clojure was. So you've been doing it longer than him. That's insane.
Yeah, well, for whatever it's worth.
He's a great book too, Russ Olson.
Pardon? Sorry?
Oh, he has a great book, Russ Olson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's the man. He's like literally the man. He's the founder of RubyConf too. You know that, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's like the man. Like he's the functional dude. Like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But
yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I'm afraid I'm not the functional dude. Yeah, so I do live in Provo. I'm at my parents in California right now. But yeah, so good to meet you all.
All right. Let's see. Ayla, are you around?
Yeah, hi, it's Isla.
Isla? All right, sorry about that.
First time. Let's see. I started programming in Clojure about a year ago when I got a job at Recursion Pharmaceuticals and kind of fell in love with it. It's pretty awesome. So I'm excited about the talk today. Programmed in Python, Java, C++, other languages before that though.
Cool. Nice to meet you. All right, next, Luis?
Yes. Hi. Good morning. Good evening. Well, I am Luis from Argentina. I have been. I haven't worked in Clojure. I have never worked in Clojure, but I have perhaps a fan of Clojure and an amateur. I have been studying Clojure as a hobby for the last 10 years, but just in my spare time. And I'm also very interested in functional programming, Haskell, and so on. And the subject we discussed in our last meetup, category theory. And well, but my job, I used to code in Java, Kotlin, JavaScript, TypeScript, and so on. That's my background.
Cool. Great to see you.
Welcome back, Luis. Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Matthew?
Yeah, my name is Matthew Cheney. I'm studying computer science at UO. I have a year and a half left. I've been doing Clojure for an on-campus job for about 4 months. Lots of Python and Java before that.
Cool. Great to meet you. Okay, Nathan?
Yeah, so I'm Nathan Chatwin. I'm also working on BYU campus for the College of Humanities. Was introduced to Clojure by Tori here, and I love Clojure. It's the first language that's really made me excited about developing in general. I mean, I was initially a CS major and switched to information systems and was looking to take a different career path, but Clojure has convinced me to be a developer again. So. Pretty cool.
Sweet. Win for Clojure. All right, let's see. Patrick?
Hi, I'm Patrick Alvin. I live in Hong Kong. I work in finance, and we do bits of Clojure, mostly Java day to day. But yeah, I'm sort of hobbyist, semi-professional hobbyist, I suppose. But yeah, I thought I'd just try and learn some more. So I've been doing Let's Crux and sort of seen, I think some guys here have been working with Crux a bit too. So yeah, so thanks for setting up the call. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cool, welcome. Yeah, I love Crux too. Let's see, Peter?
Hey guys, I am Peter. I almost can say I'm a regular because I think this is the third one I've been to.
Yeah.
It's been fun being around. I'm kind of an odd bird here because I'm a product guy. I was a product guy at accounting software, but I started learning Clojure script myself. My new startup is based on Clojure. We're using Clojure on the back end. My brother is a CTO. So Brian, it was great to hear that maybe someone's got to splash it big with Clojure. So we hope we're one of them. And I am messing around with Clojure script. So I do the front end and my brother does the serious stuff. Not that the front end isn't serious. So I'm a Haque programmer myself, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm trying to learn more and more and it's a great community. So I find that really fun to engage with everyone. So thanks everyone.
Yeah,
Welcome back.
Let's see, Raf?
Yeah, so I'm in West Valley and I don't know, just kind of been learning for fun, I guess. I don't have anything interesting to say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, nice to meet you.
The best
Thanks for
reason.
coming.
Nice to meet you.
All right, let's see, Yuri?
Yeah, my name is Yuri, and I'm a student at BYU studying information systems as well. And I studied Clojure since April. I'm working with Story, and I'm excited to be here today.
Cool. Awesome. Welcome, Yuri. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Nice. All right, Tori, I think you're the last one.
All right, I am Tori. I'm a senior web application engineer for a college at BYU. And I kind of, as Dan puts it, I run a shop where we train up students in how to use Clojure, and hopefully they have as good a story about it as Nate does. So I've been using Clojure at work since about 2015. So I used it for school a little bit before that, and I'm excited about all things Clojure. So.
Great. All right, did I miss anyone? I think I got everyone. All right, I'll assume I got everyone. Okay, with that, maybe let's just go on to the presentation, unless Brian, were there any announcements you wanted to make or anything? Brian or Tori, either of you?
Other than just, I'll just reiterate real quickly. Sorry, Tori. The announcement I made at the beginning, TaxBit, my company, is hiring. So we are looking for Clojure developers, primarily backend and with the Atomic experience. And so if you or you know anybody our preference is in the order of Utah first, then Brazil, and then the rest of the world. So, so that sort of gives some illusion, if you will, to the Cognitex acquisition by Nubank. We're looking at possibly doing some work in Brazil. So, but anyway, we're hiring. It's a great company. It really, really is. It's a great company. It's a great team. I promise if you join, you'll love working there. So,
are you guys looking for junior developers or seniors?
We are looking for anyone who passes our interview tests. So
yeah, a little bit of CLJ, HTTP, little Cheshire. You guys using Cheshire?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Cheshire. The JSON library?
Yeah, the JSON encoding, decoding library. Like that, I mean, I'm going to get into all that in my presentation, but for those that are studying in academia or looking for a Clojure job, you should definitely be looking at like Cheshire.
Cheshire is wonderful.
And Datomic, as he mentioned, and stuff like that.
Our main thing, and the main thing that I think, I'll just say this generally, kind of industry-wide, I feel like a big challenge that people have coming on to Clojure projects is demonstrating expertise both in an interview and in a live production scenario with Datomic. So having that over any library is definitely something that we desire strongly.
Right. I agree. Libraries change every day, man. You don't know what's going to be the next thing. Today's
Cheshire is a wonderful library, though, man. It's so easy to use.
Right.
You drop it in with Lanigan or Clojure Depths, and you're off and running. So yeah, that's my only announcement.
Cool. All right. Anything from you, Tori?
Should I share my screen?
Sure.
Corey, do you have anything?
I don't have anything in particular. For your job hiring, I'm just wondering what's the timeline you're looking for? Like, you going to be hiring for the next year or for the next month, or what are you looking for?
Well, so we have an immediate need, of course. You always also have attrition, you know? So it'd be great to fill the queue and fill it with people that we know, like in the case that you and I had talked about. If we know that there's a talented pool out there, that's great. If we can develop that now and get kind of lead time cycles, then that, you know, our need is immediate but continuous. So
very good.
Just stay with that.
All right, well, that's it for me. So.
Okay, awesome.
Right.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, Zubair, you can just take it away then. And yeah, if you want to share your screen, that'd be fine if you got stuff to share.
Yeah, a question on that. I clicked share screen and it says the host is disabled.
Oh, really? Oh, it's.
Yeah, he's.
Let me enable that for you. If Zoom makes it easy for me to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot about. I'm like looking at this, like, how do you navigate this thing? You know?
Man, this is okay. I clicked on your name, and it's not showing me a allow screen share thing. So let me see if it's in the.
I'm sorry, I was.
Okay. I just found it in
You might need
security.
to make him
Okay.
the host.
All right. I think. Well, no. I think try it now. I think you should be able to share screen now.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So if I move to this slide, can you see the slide, guys?
Yeah, you might want to
continuous coverage
in a little bit.
Say that again.
You might want to zoom in a little bit, or like make it full screen or something, just in case people are on small screens or something.
Yeah, I was gonna definitely do that. I'm trying to. I don't know how. How do you make this big? How do you make? Like you go to slideshow, right? Like this or something.
I think.
How's this?
Perfect. That's perfect.
Okay, so before I get started, I definitely want you guys to know we're going to be switching screens a lot. So sometimes we're going to be in the PowerPoint. Other times we're going to be inside of a text editor, IntelliJ, and we're going to be doing some like coding and going over examples. And then other times we're going to be in the terminal because we want to run the code as well, right? And I definitely want to let people know. So I'm very excited that we have some people that are from the academic world. So fun fact here, a lot of the artificial intelligence and first machine learning algorithms were developed in Lisp. Not in Clojure, but they were developed in colleges, actually. So it's great that you guys are so excited about learning Clojure. We have a lot of longtime Clojure developers, which is great. I myself has been doing Clojure since May of 2018, so not that long. I think I'm decent, but I'll try my best to bake everything down in full detail so everyone gets it. And don't feel pressure to take notes or anything. I can give these slides to you guys. I can definitely zip this up and send this guy. Do you guys have a GitHub repo, Jacob, that you can host the?
I'll just chime in real quick. We absolutely do. It's under published at the moment, but we absolutely do. So this talk, along with all of our others, are on our GitHub repo that you can do a poll on. And for any presenter, please feel free to submit a pull request and we'll add in any artifacts that might be missing. So I'll put that in the comments of the, or Jacob, maybe one of us can do it, in the comments of the meetup page afterwards.
Right. Okay. So that would be great because it'll be a great thing that you guys can just basically pull down the project and then run it from the command line or even play with it on the REPL, right? So that would be great. So let's get started. So this is a talk that I created. It's called Continuous Coverage with Clojure. And just a little bit about me. I'm Zubair. I'm currently working at the Climate Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Bayer, which is a huge pharmaceutical company. But one thing that they do that a lot of people don't know about is they do agriculture technology, right? I have over a decade of experience, right? With a core focus on automated testing in big data IoT environments in a Linux environment. I specialize in solution architecture for test automation, API development and delivery, and test infrastructure tooling for CI/CD, which is better known as continuous integration and continuous delivery. So by the end of the session, my goal is that you understand CLJ HTTP, which is a library that you can use to create APIs in Clojure. Cheshire, which is a encoding and decoding library for JSON, and the benefits of using these libraries. I want to get people writing more integration tests so they can deliver better software. I want people to write readable code. So if you get a chance to work with Brian, he can like look at the tests that fail in the build and be like, oh, this is what this test is supposed to do. And I also want to teach you how to configure your test suite and utilize this information to your advantage. Okay, so getting started. Most Clojure projects use Lineagen or Maven. Does ClojureScript use Lineagen? Brian, because I'm not using ClojureScript. Do you know that?
Yeah, it does. It can.
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we use Lineagen for all of our Clojure projects.
oh, okay, that's great. So I actually haven't used it with Maven before, so I was hoping that we were a lot of people that are familiar with Lineagen. So which are two of the most popular build tools that are used from what I know. So if you're going to be using Clojure, it's important that you know how to use them, right? For this particular session, I'll be going over the Lineagen tool and how to build that on the command line while you're developing. So here's a tip. It's much easier to use than Maven, because I've been a part of a lot of Java projects. And it's easy to get yourself up and running. Another fun fact is, I think that Lineagen is very similar to Ruby's rake and bundler tool, because I've been on a lot of Ruby on Rails projects as well. The Lineagen build tool will be helping us with the following. Project compilation. Clojure is a language on the JVM, and it gets converted into Java bytecode, and Lineagen tasks help automate that process. Dependency management. Just like Ruby's bundler and gem files, Lineagen automates the process of resolving and downloading the Java jar files that your code base depends on. Running tasks. Also similar to Ruby's rake, you can run custom automation tasks written in Clojure. And this comes in handy for a lot of things such as regression testing, checking the code coverage for your unit tests, and just line building it, doing a clean build, which I'll go over a little bit later as well. And the deployment, which helps us create Java jars, which can be executed or incorporated in other projects in your project CLJ. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to exit out of here. And I'm going to take you to this file, which is called the project CLJ. So the first thing I'm going to go over is how to define your project. This is fairly simple, but let's break it down step by step. So what you want to do is do a open parens and create a def project. And in there you want to do, and basically declare your package name. So I work at Climate, so it's com.climate, name of the project, and the name of the service. And then you want to give a description of that service. I wrote a dummy URL, and I put the min line version, which is the Lineagen version right here. And then you want to basically, once you build your project and you have a build artifact for your CI system, for those of you using Jenkins or GitLab or using GitLab, you want to have that in your release bin directory right here. And that's basically it. Moving on from that part, you want to basically go over some of these important things here. So line 13 is a source path. This is where your main Clojure code lives. Okay. You also have your test paths, which is your source test Clojure package. And then you have resources such as some JSON or XML you want to pass in as part of a post request or a put request. And you also have resource paths. You can do that with source main resources. Now let's get to the meat of the burger. One of the most important things that you need to know about Project CLJ is the dependencies section. And this is where you can add libraries that you need for your project. So let's go over how to declare dependencies. First and foremost, I'm going to go over how to write integration tests, and you need the Clojure core test.check package there. I also added the CLJ HTTP library, which I mentioned a little bit earlier this conversation, which is a HTTP library which wraps the Apache HTTP components. I will be showing you how to automate CRUD apps, which is create, read, update, and delete with this library, basically your API automation. I'm also using Clojure, which is a library that encodes and decodes JSON. I'm going to be using it to parse JSON that gets returned from the request. And last but not least, I'm using HTTP Kit, which supports asynchronous calls to a server. So let me go back to this thing right here. So I'll go to a slideshow mode, back into slideshow mode. Start. Profiles. So before we start getting coding and stuff like that and getting into examples, I want to go over what profiles are. So as you can see, I didn't have a lot of profiles in my project. CLJ is more of a bare bones Clojure project. So when you guys pull that down from the GitHub repository, you'll be able to like basically run it real quick, right? And I'll send it to the organizers of the meetup, as I mentioned before. So what are profiles? Profiles are automatically loaded when you launch a Linigan task. So it's very preferable, I would say, having a dev and a test profile. And these can be defined in your project CLJ. And it allows you to be flexible when specifying what dependencies you need for development and what you need for your test tooling. Certain profiles are active by default unless you specify another set of profiles. And you can run that on the command line, such as line with profile, and you can specify the task you're running. So the dev profile is there by default. The test profile is not there by default, and it needs to be specified. So if you want to separate out your dev and test dependencies, you can see how you can do that here, right? So you'll have tests, and then you'll have your test paths, and then you can declare your dependencies right there with the colon dependencies there. Now let me get back to IntelliJ here. So let's get into a simple test. And as you can see, my directory structure is integration test, source, test, and this is the simple test right here. I'm in this file right here. So let's go over what a namespace is first, right? So before we first start our first Clojure function, we need to define a namespace, and you're doing that by open parens and doing the ns for namespace. Namespace are a modularization tool in Clojure. You do that, like I said, by specifying the ns. So let's make that easier. This is along the same lines as you would when you would create a Java class or a Scala class. You start off by declaring a package name, then listing out all of the necessary imports, so on and so forth, right? So here I am, I specified my package name, com, climate, test folder, integration. So here's the same com, climate, test integration, and then the name of this file, which is simple test. And here you can require all the dependencies that you need for this file to run, right? So we have Clojure test in here, and it refers to all. And I have some environment configuration just to get this running. And as you can see, I'm not even using that import because it's grayed out. So with that being said, every Clojure source file, the ns macro helps you define the imports, and you can set them off as aliases, like, which I'll show you a little bit later on. In this file here, which is called tagged test. So I'm bringing in my clom.climate request CLJ HTTP client to make HTTP requests, and I've given it an alias such as :as for HTTP, and my JSON encoding decoding library for serialization, and I have Cheshire.core, and I refer to it as JSON. So now let's write our first test, right, and see what that looks like, right? We want to first start off by opening a parentheses and writing def test in there. Then we open up another, after we declare the name of test something simple, we open up another paren and we add a testing. We add testing here. And then this basically just gives you the description of what the test is, which for us, we have listed here, would be doing a simple assertion. And finally, we're using the is macro to make assertions. And the is macro is something that's built into Clojure core. And we'll dive into that a little bit later. And that's basically it. So let's run this bad boy, right? Let's see how we can run it. So can you guys see the command line? Is it big enough?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yep. So if I type in line test, right? And I'm not using ClojureScript. So fun fact, ClojureScript is way faster compile time than it is on the JVM, right? So here it is. It ran my test, right? The simple test, it ran it. One test containing one assertion, because 1 equals 1, and that passed, right?
Sweet.
Okay, I'm going to just go to back over here. And I want to go over test selectors a little bit, right? And what are test selectors, right? Test selectors are Leiningen's way of letting you tag tests. And you can use like these little bits of metadata that allow you to set up command line arguments to tag your tests. So this is basically running just a selection of your tests, right? So let's just say you're on the TaxBit website. You have your user profile. And Brian has made a change to the user service. So you want to run just those tests that are related to that service. So you would do line test, and on line 35, and I'll make it bigger here, you see the test selector service. So you would come in here on your command line and do something like this, line test service. Now, I don't have any tests with the test selector service, so it's going to say 0, but that's how I would test the user service, right? And boom, there you have it. That's how that works, right? And this is going to be very powerful for those of you working in a microservices architecture. You want to basically tag your tests and you want to run certain tests at a certain time. So how do we declare a test selector, right? We came here, we did :test selector, and we declare it. And I have an integration test selector that I'm going to declare. I'm basically going to run all of my integration tests, and I'm going to flag the test functions that I want to run. And as you can see, from lines 11 to 21, I have an :integration. Now, when I go back to the command line and I run line test integration, it's going to run these two test functions. So let's do that right there.
Hey, Zubair.
Yes.
What is that doing?
The from what I know, is something that signifies it to run that test method. I mean, am I wrong on that? That's what I thought that's what it did from the Clojure.
If I can say something about that. So the on any function or anywhere in Clojure, you can use it on defs, you can use it on defins. It is the shortcut for applying metadata. So you could do with a map, and then you'd have keyword integration true or something. But the shortcut is just keyword, and that does the same thing.
Oh, so that's the metadata part. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah.
Cool. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I was just curious.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, so that was actually good because I didn't know what the was for. I just knew that all test selectors use the So basically, can I just like take the off and then run line test integration? I probably can, right? I never really tried it because that's what the Clojure doc said. So I was like, oh, cool. But
Yeah, if you take the up caret off, it's going to break, I think, because it's invalid syntax.
yes, that's what I knew. That's why I always use the up caret because I knew it was invalid. So.
But you could do up caret curly bracket and then keyword integration true, and that would be the same thing.
Oh, okay, cool.
And in fact, I guess what you could probably do with that, I've never tried this, but what you could also do is, suppose you have a test that should be in 2 different test categories. You could use the map syntax to put it in both of them, integration and something else.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So now you got 2 different tags you want to run. One to test Brian's user service at TagBit, and then you want to make sure if a user wants to receive some notifications, which he enabled in the user service, so you could run something that basically gets him a notification about his tax docs from Bitcoin or whatever. Brian, I hope I'm not butchering your app, but I'm just trying to use that as an example.
I really appreciate it, buddy. Honestly, I really do. You know, these videos get sometimes transcripted and Googled, and so you're helping us out. I really appreciate it.
That's good. You know what I really like about Clojure and CLJ HTTP and Clojure test? I like the failure outputs, right? So let's just say I change true to false, and I run this again right here. So now I'm going to run line test integration, and I know it's going to fail, right? And it's going to check expected versus actual. So let's take a look at what we have right here. It said failed in integration test, line 13. This is a tag test for demo purposes. It displays the description, and it says expected true to equal false, but actually true does not equal false. So these kind of graceful failures help us out a lot when we're running like large test suites. And that's something that's really good. So a great segue here is, right, since I made this test fail, I'm going to go ahead and change it back to true. Now, what do I want to do if I want to run just one test function? I can use this only right here. So I'm going to do another command plus. You see this line test :only? You can use that.
Hang on a second. I'm not seeing your screen anymore. It's frozen on your shell.
Do you see me highlighting only?
No, I only see ran 2 tests containing 3 assertions, 0 failure, 0 errors, and so on.
It's to which you ran line test integration after you removed the up caret. That's where it's frozen.
Wow.
Maybe try unsharing and then resharing your screen.
Yeah. I can definitely do that. Okay, and then I'll share again. Can you see this JSON placeholder typecode.com?
For me, it's all black. Does anyone else see it?
Yeah, I'm all black over here.
Can you see the terminal?
Nope. Only black.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing again. Okay, so click on share screen. Click on desktop number 2. Okay, and can you see it now?
No, it's still black. What if you try sharing just like an individual application window?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing again. I'm going to minimize the. So now you should see the terminal. Do you see the terminal?
No. Hey, Jacob, did you just make him the host, man?
Sure.
I think that'll clear it up. Potentially.
Yeah, maybe. Possibility.
I promise to give host back to Jacob.
Okay.
Yeah, I can. I mean,
just a second. Let's see.
Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. How do I know if I'm the host? Because I don't really use Zoom.
You'll know because I'll click this button and now you're the host. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but
might not.
Give it a shot.
Okay, so I have this desktop over here. Can you see?
Yes.
You can see that at least. So I think now Tori's complaint is that you're referencing some things in your IDE that we're unable to see. I think if worse comes to worse, maybe you could use like, I don't know, Tmux or something, or just open another tab in your terminal and VI the code.
I know what to do. I know what to do. Why don't I make half of it here and then this half here? Can you see the IntelliJ now?
No. No. So try unsharing again and then share your desktop now instead of just the application window.
Yes. Hold on 1 second. Let me do that. Okay, so stop sharing. Okay, now when I share, what did you say you want me to do?
So,
just the desktop?
Yeah, like you were doing in the first place.
Okay, can you see this now?
No, negative.
Oh, no, it works.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, can you see both the terminal and?
Yes, yeah, we see your whole desktop.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. We're back online.
So can I do something like this? Can you see both of these?
We can see them both. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Cool.
Beautiful. Yes, that's what we were going for. Okay, awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Whoa. What do we want to do if we want to run one test only, like one test function? We can use this colon only thing right here, and then it's colon line test colon only, package name, the namespace, and the test function, right? So you can just take this here, copy it, paste it, and then run it. And it should run just this test function. And it should have one assertion only. And there it is. It ran just that one test. So that's what I got right there. Now, let's do something more interesting and let's learn about CLJ HTTP. And before we do that, I wanted to go over this. Can you see this? Can you see this JSON placeholder website?
Yes.
Or you can't see that? Okay. Okay, so I want to use this JSON placeholder website to make this request to HTTPS, JSON placeholder, typecode.com, to-dos 1. And once I make that request, try it, I get a JSON object back with a user ID key, and the value is an integer of 1. So I want to automate that, right? And I want to show you guys how easy that can be, and then we want to run it on the command line. So let's do that. So let's take a look at line 16. We have another test function, def test, with the test selector integration. And the name of this test function is get user data. And what are we testing? We're testing a get request, which retrieves all the users in the system. And let's get into how to declare a test. So this let block right here. Let's talk about let blocks. So let introduces scoped variables that are available only in this let function, right? So I use this thing called color rainbow parens. It's a Clojure plugin. I really suggest people get it because like you're always trying to like make sure you have an opening and closing paren. So I have this def test here and you see how it's highlighted. I got testing right there and you see how it's highlighting the closing paren. And then I have this let block, right? So this is the opening of this let block. And on here on line 21, this is the closing of this let block.
You're in IntelliJ?
Yeah, I'm in IntelliJ. Do you guys have that in VS Code? What do you guys have in, what's your editor? What's your text editor? I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
Emacs.
Oh, Emacs? Oh, Emacs, that's pure core Clojure stuff, right?
So you say that you're in IntelliJ. Does that mean you're in cursive?
Yes, I have cursive. Yes, we have a cursive license. Unfortunately, I don't pay for that. The company does. So if you can get a cursive license and you can get rainbow parens, I really suggest it.
Very nice. Beautiful.
Yeah. So let's go over how to create this let block, right? So I have this paren. I open it up, and I have this let block here. And let blocks take vectors, right? So vectors are just like arrays. You have a bracket right here, which is yellow, and the closing bracket right here. I want you to notice something. When I close the vector, that's when I do my assertions. And why is that? That's because this vector has scoped variables, right? The let block itself has scoped variables, but inside the vector, I have these scoped variables, and I refer to them outside of the vector when I do my assertions, which I'll go over, in a minute or so. So, like I said, I'm going to validate that the user ID key is 1 in the test. So I'm going to create a variable here called getUserInfo on line 17. And if you remember from earlier when I was talking that I'm going to use a CLJ HTTP client library, and I'm going to refer to it as HTTP. So I have a function here where I'm calling the HTTP client namespace. I call the get function, right? So, and I have my URL, which is defined on line number 9, okay? And then I have a string, which appends the URI, the ending of the URL, your endpoint, right? And then I close that function. Then I have a I have headers that are being passed in as a map right here, right? And then I close that function right here, the HTTP get function. Okay. Now, line 16 shows us declaring our test, get user info, HTTP get. Let's do a command click on the HTTP client so we can see. And I want to go over this function right here because this is the function I'm using to do the get request. This is the CLJ HTTP docs. This isn't something I wrote. This is the library that I'm using, and the get function takes in 2 arguments, which is URL and requests. Okay, so just wanted to show you what was going on under the hood so you guys have a better picture of that. And then on line 19, right, I'm using the Cheshire library, right? And I'm going to create a variable called response body. And let's take a look at this arrow right here. Okay, the arrow is the thread first macro, and that's basically a fancy way of saying it takes the first argument that you pass it and sends it to the next function. So it takes the first argument right here and passes it to the JSON parse string true function. And the JSON is my reference to the Cheshire namespace. So I required this library here, and I refer to it as JSON. And then if I command click parse string, it takes you to the Cheshire code here, which is basically parsing the JSON being returned from the request, right? And that's literally all that it's doing. A description of that is right here. But if you know about RESTful architecture and you know about REST APIs, you know what parsing JSON basically means, right? And then after that, as you can see, in the end of line 19, I'm closing that vector, okay? So just to be clear, again, once again, I'm doing the assertions outside of the vector. I am validating the response here on line 20, which is a response returned from the GET request that I do, and I'm expecting that to be a 200. 200 means good, usually 400 means client-side error, 500 means server error. So as I showed you before, we're going to be validating the user ID, which we see in that was 1, and that's an integer. So I just left it as the number 1. If you want to make it a string, you could basically do something like this, and then wrap that and like str at the end, and then it'll get the nested JSON in the object for the user ID key, and it'll validate that it's a string. But I don't want to do that, so I'll just leave it as a 1. And I'm also using something from the Clojure.core reference here, and I'm using the getIn function, which I'm using to validate the key value pairs. And what that basically does is it validates anything in a nested associative structure. This is very good. I mean, I use this a lot in my test suite. You don't have to, but it's great. you know, so why not use it? So let's run this thing. So again, on the command line, wait, let's clear everything up here. Let's see it. Okay, let's run line test integration. And it's going to run get user data as well. And actually, I got something better. So we're running integration test. So let's run get user data. Oops. Ah, that's what I did. Ha, I didn't refer to the namespace. And there it is. It ran one test containing 2 assertions. The first assertion, validate the response code is 200. And the last assertion was go inside the response body, return from the request, and make sure that the user ID is 1. And that's basically it. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Sure. Let me get back to, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Kind of an off-base question, but obviously you don't want to have your assertions inside of a let vector, but if you put them in it, it actually does still fail the test. So how is different than a regular function? Because I would have thought it would just return false or something and set that to the variable name you're giving it in the let vector rather than failing the test. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So the is macro is usually like an assert equal in like Python, or like it's just basically an assert statement. Am I right about that? I'm pretty sure that that's what that is. I haven't read the is docs in a while, but I'll just, it's just, yeah, it's a generic assertion macro. But your question was, why don't I do that inside the let block? I guess
that if you do, like, why does it stop the program rather than just returning a false or something?
I don't think it would stop the program. I just think it would be odd to do it outside of the vector. Am I wrong? I mean, Brian, do you know more about this? Have you ever done an assertion inside of the vector, or do you know?
I've not, but just looking at both the naming convention, I mean, it to me, I had made the assumption that it was testing for a Boolean true condition. But it would be interesting actually to see what is this try expression form on the second form of def macro is line 569. Try expression. What is that? What does that go to?
Okay, that's used by the is macro to cache unaccepted exceptions. You don't call this.
Oh, cool. Okay, interesting. Right, and it has a try and a catch. So and then it runs the assert expression. So then what does assert expression do?
Assert expression. So what Brian is doing right now is that this is a good teaching moment. This is looking into high order functions, right? Am I right? This is the hierarchy of high order functions.
I don't know. I mean, these are macros, right? So
yeah,
they are calling functions. Ultimately, it's going to be a function at the end of the day.
Right.
Right? Because a macro is text replacement.
Right. So we have a def multi here. Def multi.
Oh, okay, there we go. We got a function that takes a message in a form and a conditional. And so string is the output nil, then we fail it. Otherwise,
if not, it does a sequence.
We go to a sequence, so I assume that's going to keep. Oh, right. Okay, so it's saying if it's a sequence. So what does this do? Okay, if it's a sequence, then if that's true, then we call first on the form, and assuming that that's true, why is it calling first though? Why would you call first?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so this is actually dealing with the forms, right? So that first is going to be something like the equal function or whatever you're using.
You mean the form is?
I think the first of the form is going to be that thing like whichever predicated function you're using in your is.
Is it to force a lazy sequence to, but then you just use a do all. But I was assuming that maybe we're calling first on it to force a lazy sequence to execute, but that might not be the case either.
So I think what it's doing is it's saying that you do is parentheses equals something or whatever you're doing for your is, and it's going to be looking for that equals. So you could say is equals, and in that case, the first there grabs the equals, and it says use the equals on the form.
Right. It's a fancy way of doing actual versus expected, right? In your sequence,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. What Tori's saying totally makes sense. I'm just, what was where we called that from? What was the rest of the execution sequence then? Because
where do we
it would
call
only
it?
make sense with regard to what is the rest of it then. If it's grabbing an equal, if it's grabbing the comparator, right? If it's grabbing a greater than, equal, an equal, whatever, then there's actually,
Yeah, I think what you're asking is
there it is. Okay.
back where it uses a
all the way
certain
down to
expression.
line 520, 517. So these are all assert experts, and there is a multi-method.
Yeah.
That's the key, I think. Okay. Sorry, Tori. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's great. That's perfect.
I noticed that it's a multi-method, and then we have def method on the rest of it to actually perform different kinds of processing, it looks like.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that part at first. And then this is, yeah, okay, cool, right on. So, I mean, is a totally common though. If you, so if you go to Clojure land, right? So if you go to my personal repo and get something called GitHub repository downloader, you can compile that and then do -- organization and then do Clojure land. It'll pull down for you like 1,400 or 1,500 Clojure repositories. And like you can check for the def test and the is. And I think it's probably the most common, Clojure test mechanism out there.
Yeah, it's like that self-assert equal in Python. Like they have an assert equal.
Exactly.
Like it's the same thing. And then like, what does like Java have? Like Java has
assert now. I think they added it in 1.5 or 1.8, but it has assert.
Yeah, and Scala has like matchers, right? Because I use Scala a lot too.
Yeah, Scala is Java under the covers, right? So yeah, but
yeah, definitely.
I think every modern language has gone to some form of this, but it's just syntactic sugar is the thing, so it's not absolutely necessary.
Right, and there are also some other very popular testing frameworks in Clojure other than Core Test. So they frame things differently. And so I haven't switched to them yet, but they're interesting.
Yeah, you know what's a very popular one? Have you heard of Midge?
Yes.
Yeah, let me show you guys some of that, right?
Yeah, cool. Right on. I've never used Midge. So
it's like we were using it and then I was like, I want to use something that has more of a BDD flavor. Because I used to do like Cucumber back in the days. Like Cucumber was like the first thing I did, right, with RSpec. So it has a lot of that, like, describe it, all that stuff, right? You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, cool. Let me just do like CLJ HTTP because that's what that does. But
there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what's funny? Like Ruby's like dead, man. I wish it's like it's not like around that much anymore.
Hey, Zubair, I did want to ask a question. So if someone were trying to do like a full TDD style, like development pattern, is that what you run yourself actually? And I'm kind of curious. Or
yeah, so we do. So funny you said TDD.
Just in terms like the old school Ruby, red, green kind of deal. Like, I want all my tests to fail until they don't.
Right.
Yes, for that we were using Midge. So a lot of the unit tests are used with Midge. So as you can see, this is one of the super popular TDD libraries in Clojure. And this is very popular, but for the integration API test, we're using CLJ HTTP with Cheshire. But you can use both. Do you know with redefs? Have you heard of with redefs? Basically redefs the function that you like your real function, and then it basically validates, what your function's supposed to do. So yeah, we use Midge for TDD, We also use CLJ HTTP. But Midge is popular. You guys said that. Did anyone has used Midge over here?
I haven't. I see it. Midge has been mentioned in a lot of the books. The other one that I'm looking into is by Sean Corfield. It's called Expectations, and it's a testing framework that allows you to express things in different shape. So Clojure Expectations, and it's pretty compelling. I'm a big fan of Corfield, but he made a good library here.
Me as well. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh, line do clean expectations. That's
Nice.
good.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. Thank you so much, Tori, for sharing that.
He says donate Bitcoins, man. So make sure you give him a little.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When you put tags on the test, can you put by namespace, or you have to put tags in by each test?
So if you want to run just one namespace, you can just run it like this. So line test only, your package name, dot name of your namespace. So the name of this namespace is called tag test because that's the name of the file, tagged _ test CLJ. So once again, it's line test, colon only, because you only want to run that namespace, the name of your entire package, which is com.climate test integration, then the name of your file or your namespace, which is tag test. And if you do that, this will run 2 tests, I think, with 3 assertions.
Right. Is there any way to combine, I guess, multiple namespace?
I think you can just, have you, Brian, have you ran?
Sorry, real quick, Zubair, are you asking to be able to do it through the metadata? So by adding metadata tags across namespaces, so like in this example, if we have integration and it shows up across, let's say 3 packages, would it run all of those?
Yeah, I would think I'm thinking about the project I'm working on, and I would want to run multiple namespace, but they are kind of related in my mind. I want to run it at the same time.
Got you. Okay.
Oh, so you would just do line test integration. Now I've ran everything in my test suite. So I ran the test and simple test, and I ran the test and tag test. So I ran multiple namespaces at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, just add this metadata tag of integration. Now you can do that when you go to Project CLJ and declare your test selectors. And the test selectors are easy.
Cool. So yeah, it did simple test and tag test there. 3 tests, 4 assertions. Sorry, Zubair, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I love this meetup. I feel so good because everyone has so many things to contribute. I mean, that really is a blessing. I didn't know about this other library, Expectations, but as soon as I get out of here and I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to bring this up. This is good stuff.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Does anyone else have anything to show that they've been working on? I'd love to see other stuff too.
I was just curious. So were you gonna also look at some CI/CD stuff? Because that'd be awesome.
CI/CD stuff. The thing is, I wanted to talk about that here, but the way I've set it up in GitLab. Basically we have these have you guys heard of Sonar?
I have not.
No, that's new.
Sonar,
yes, I do.
So Sonar is just something that does all of your code checks for code quality and security, and we have that built into our job. So I can't show you that because that would be showing what we have in the company and stuff like that, and it would show all the compliance checks that we do. But I also use this thing let me show you some cool stuff, right? I can show you what's in there. So we use this line Cloverage. I want to know if Brian's using this. Are you using this, Cloverage?
I'm using Cloverage. Yeah, Cloverage is awesome. I was going to start showing that when you said that, and I was like, it's in the proprietary code also. So
Yeah, that's the sad part, right? So getting this presentation together, I had to like strip out a lot of things to like remove the proprietary stuff. And even today, I was like super worried because like I'm showing like the Artifactory. I changed the URL to like it's been released, but it's like you can't really get there unless you have the Artifactory like username and password, right?
Yeah.
And like you want to have like the signed certificate. I have it to false, but if you have signed certificates set to true, it's going to publish the artifact and it's going to be sitting there in like JFrog Artifactory. So like I didn't want to do that, right? So I was just like constantly thinking of ways of how to get around that. But line Cloverage is great, and you want to add it to your like CI/CD release situation that you have going on at work. So how do you want to do it? You want to build your project first, right? So you want to do a line build clean. So what is like line do clean, right? So that would be a way to build it. You want to do line do clean, build your Clojure service. Then you want to do test. Then you want to run Cloverage on your test. And once it's deployed and the artifact gets pushed to the cloud, it'll have an Amazon Elastic Container Registry, which is called ECR. It will spin down the old container, and then it will push up a new Docker container with your changes. Once that Docker container is up in the cloud, we will have AWS SSM passwords and usernames, and that'll be where our test data is stored. And then we'll run the CLJ HTTP test that I show you against the new Docker container deployed in the cloud. So that's how we do it. Brian, what are you guys doing? I'm anxious to know.
No, that's an awesome architecture. I just run tests locally right now, and it generates a coverage report through Cloverage. So it's really nice. It's running some of it in the cloud. So we have a cloud architecture, of course, but everything I'm running. And then, of course, it's also, we have a Bitbucket pipeline. So if you commit to your branch and you push, everything is automatically ran through Bitbucket, and then can do the reporting and can do a full, essentially, production release, and then run through those tests to make sure that within that environment, everything is good and is okay. And we have it in such a way that it's fairly automated, right? So like you just push to your branch, and then it'll run all those tests for you. But normally in my develop, compile, test, deploy cycle, in between that, I run everything locally.
Right. Cool.
I'd love to hear you guys some feedback on what we do on some of ours. And you guys can tell me if you feel like I'm missing anything here. So we have it set up with Jenkins. So Jenkins is plugged into our GitHub repos. And so when a pull request is made for something on the development branch, if I approve that pull request, then Jenkins is hooked in and will then download all the code to whichever server it's on. It'll do the line clean and the line build, and then it does line test to run all the tests. We actually don't use Cloverage in Jenkins at the moment. But then if the test pass, it then does a build and deploys the jar or the WAR file, whichever way we're doing it for that application. So we utilize Jenkins that way. So I'd love to hear, it sounds like it's a little bit different than some of the other approaches here.
We're doing the same thing. We're publishing that WAR file, but it's sitting in that Artifactory, right? And that's like our static artifact, right? And that basically helps us too. Like, let's just say we want to roll back to some version that we want to go back to. We can just take that WAR file and then deploy it, or check that commit out, whatever works. But yeah, that sounds good.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is Tori, right?
Yeah, this is Tori. Yep, here at BYU.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, you're working at BYU. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm the senior web application engineer for our department.
Nice. And what does BYU stand for? I want to write that down. Sounds like a cool
Brigham Young University.
You cut out there. What was it?
Brigham Young University.
Brigham Young University. Cool, man. Cool, man. I love it. Yeah. So, how do I give back the, what is it? The presenter?
Yeah, the host.
The presenter back.
Jacob, are you on?
Hey, I am on.
Sweetie, just go ahead and throw it
but-
back to Jacob, and he'll close this up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the presentation. We can do a little applause.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
so much,
No,
Zubair. That was
you
really
guys,
wonderful.
you
It really was.
Yeah. And by the way, if there's anyone else who would like to give a presentation, you can contact any of us. So either myself or Brian or Tori. And we'd love to chat.
So yeah, just to chime in on that, we're on the Slack channel in Clojurians. So Clojure-Provo, or the meetup page, or through that you can IM Jacob or myself or Tori individually as well, or email us briancAbbott@gmail.com, brian@taxbit.com, and then I think Jacob and Tori's emails are on the meetup page as well. So yeah, we'd love to have other people at kind of, and that's the important thing to emphasize, a mixed skill set. So we feel like it's really important to foster the community like we talked about earlier. And so part of that is having people at both beginner, intermediate, and expert advanced levels in Clojure presenting. And so it means like some nights you might get presentations which are kind of at a beginner level, but it helps us remember how to talk to junior engineers first coming into Clojure the first time, or even intermediate or advanced engineers coming into Clojure for the first time, and then all the way up to very, very advanced architectures. We'd absolutely, of course, love to hear from you guys on that as well. So, yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. I guess.
Hey, I really wanted to thank you guys for putting this on. This was well put together, and
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I definitely want to send the repo to everyone, so everyone can have this. I want this to be. I might need some help stripping that artifactory stuff, so I'll ask Brian and Jacob. Like, how do I remove that from the project CLJ? Because when I was trying to, it wouldn't run. But I guess I'll get with you guys on that, and then you guys can.
No worries on that, man. Just we'll do it by way of a pull request to the Clojure-Provo GitHub repo.
Clojure-Provo
and then,
GitHub repo.
And then we can work together on taking out any proprietary things, whatever, etc. So I threw that out there in the meetup on the chat channel, the github.com/Clojure-Provo. But then I'll IM you directly afterwards, Zubair, and we can work that out. So. Yeah, thank you guys for your kind comments. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess if anyone wants to continue chatting, feel free. And if not, then have a wonderful night.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Jacob.
Night, guys.
Pleasure, everyone.
All right, cheers. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And Brian, are you gonna handle putting this on YouTube or something?
Yeah, so we both recorded it. You and Tori had talked about that you liked an edited cut. I always prefer also a raw cut, so we can figure something like that out.
Yeah. I think that'd be like, do you have a video editor handy? You can just.
Yeah, I mean, I can try. I've never edited a video before.
Yeah.
Me neither. I never edited a video.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, we'll figure out what we want to do in that regard.
Yeah.
Zubair, thank you so much, man, for dropping the TaxBit line tonight. Scott is also here. He is my boss at TaxBit. I can attest. He's a wonderful boss and a wonderful man, and great to work.
But not a wonderful engineer.
Debatable.
Yeah.
That's an inside. That's a little inside joke, actually.
You know you are. I know you are. I know you are. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Yeah.
It's like when you're interviewing someone and the best feedback you can get is like, this person would be a great friend.
Yes.
Well, it's great when they're both. So Scott's a great guy to work for. So anyone.
Yeah. So Scott, one thing I want to tell you is, and I didn't do it here because like I wanted the talk to be Clojure centric. I've done a lot of performance testing and benchmarking on Clojure projects, and I do that with Gatling. So I don't know if you've heard of Gatling.
Can you say the name of it? Spell it out. Gatling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gatling. Gatling for like load testing.
Yeah, and I use that to do load testing on Clojure projects. I think it's amazing. I have a lot of fun doing it. So, I mean, it might be something that you guys want to do. I think it's great if you guys do that. And I would always be willing to volunteer to help you guys get spun up with that if needed.
So we have an interesting, because our architecture is like, we're very AWS centric and we do a lot of stuff in Lambdas. And things like that. And so our entry points are a little bit unique in the sense that we have, it doesn't always go through some REST API or some code-based entry point. Sometimes it's dropping things into an S3 bucket and things like that. So our testing is a little bit custom compared to most.
Nice.
For load testing. So, but no, that's definitely cool.
Cool.
So do
you guys
work,
like
do you work for them?
Sorry, go ahead. I don't work for Gatling. I work at Bayer. I really work at Climate, which is a subsidiary of Bayer, and I work in the agricultural tech space. And we have like Clojure services and we have Scala services. So we're just like a functional shop. We have more Scala services than Clojure. I love Clojure, but we're starting to move away from it because it's hard to hire people. So that's why.
Oh yeah.
But,
That is
yeah, it is. But I want to continue doing Clojure. I love it. I mean, it puts like a huge smile on my face. I mean, it's like I was telling everyone, it's just easier to look at than Java. And then if like people want to really do real functional in Scala, I've yet to see that. So they've got Cats and Doobie, which is supposed to be like functional for Scala, but people are writing Scala like they write Java.
Exactly.
And that's kind of like whack.
So I've actually I've brought Clojure in at two different companies now, two different startups where I was the first employee, first engineer, and it is definitely a challenge. But the reason I didn't go with Scala is that the functional approach was more important to me than the code, or meaning than the language, you know. And so to me, Scala is awesome if you are doing the strictly functional Scala. But when you're doing the Java in Scala, it's a lot less so. And so I didn't like the idea
it's
of
very
promoting
messy,
that.
man. It's like very messy, man.
I know.
And it's like, I don't want to blame people because like they're coming from Java backgrounds and we're hiring them like, yo, we just need someone that can do Scala. And they're like, yeah, we can do it. And then they can, but like you said, it's Java and Scala. I haven't really seen, like I said, that whole Doobie and Cat style the right way.
Right.
I haven't seen that much, right? So my thing is, if you're going to do that and you can't do Doobie or Cats well, then you might as well just do Clojure.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So are you guys hiring any testers or data engineers or stuff? I'm a data engineer. I don't know what that title would be in TaxBit.
Well, yeah, I mean, we actually are looking for a data engineer, but the role is maybe a little different than some data engineer roles. I mean, we're not doing any heavy analytics or anything like that right now. It's more of a data ingestion, like an ETL pipeline kind of thing. So I don't know, what area are you in for data engineering? Like what kind of stuff do you do?
Basically, I do data engineer for entire product platform. I'm basically validating a lot of the CRUD services, which is the individual microservices mesh architecture. So we have an ingestion service. I write CRUD tests for that. I validate that. I also write performance tests for that in Gatling. And then I have one suite that sits outside and just tests the entire platform. So we use GitLab, and GitLab has stages. Basically, all to validate the entire platform. It's a downstream job that gets kicked off in the last stage of the pipeline. And every service that has a change made to it, it kicks off the end-to-end test at the very end, right? So it's the same thing where you have the do, clean, where you build your line against service, then you run the unit test, the redef test, then you deploy the Elastic container with the new changes in the cloud, and then you run the API test with CLJ HTTP against it. Then you basically run your performance threshold test to make sure that your threshold is in the 95 percentile of what you want for your average request per second or millisecond. And then at the end, you run the end-to-end test as a safety net to make sure you haven't broken any core requirements. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what I'm doing.
Yeah, what's your role there then? Are you like an SDET, or what's the actual role that you're doing? Or is it called data engineer? Or?
It's called data engineer, but it's more, I would say, SDET and performance testing.
Cool.
But I am doing some of like analyzing monoliths and then breaking them into services. I do also like a little bit of development too. Like I'll write like the client layer of all of our, because I'm just like so fluent with the APIs, right? I'll write the client layer of our services. So, you know, you have like the data client layer, then you got the service layer. So I'm doing most of the client layers because I know all the APIs.
So are you doing, so when you talk about a client layer, are you actually distributing a client to the people that consume those APIs? Is that like a platform service, or?
That's right. It's like a platform service. And in the end, for our other third-party users, like we're going to have Ernst & Young use some of our software. That's going to be submitted to them as an SDK, right?
Yeah, nice.
But for our platform services, that'll be a client, like a client, layer, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's cool. So you've got an SD. So are you involved in developing the SDK too, or is that like a different team, or?
We basically package up the SDK. It's a smaller team, but it is a different team, right? Because when you have an entire product platform with a lot of changes happening in the CI environment, things do get hairy. So if you want to do all of that and the SDK, then you're a little short-staffed.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Jacob, right? A one-man team. If you're Jacob, then you are the SDK.
Hey, Jacob's an entrepreneur and a founder. He's got to do it all. That's the way.
He's got to do it all, man. You know?
It's a party.
So I mean it's interesting because what you're describing is actually very much what we provide on the enterprise side. We have a consumer app that is kind of where most of our marketing attention goes right now, but we've got an enterprise version of that, which is essentially exactly what you described. We've got an API that we expose that displays kind of, you know, the engine that we have, the tax engine that takes in all of these like crypto transactions and kind of transforms them into something useful is exposed through a REST API. So we do all of our math and analytics for, you know, taxes and accounting purposes, and then we display that to the crypto exchanges. And right now they have to write their own client against our API. And so a future state for us is going to be, you know, actually having an SDK like you're describing and shipping that SDK to people, and they're just
right. You're going to have to publish
components. What's that?
Right. You're going to have to publish that to the other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, we want to, because right now it's just kind of a heavy lift for them where they've got to figure out what the data means. They've got to figure out what I mean, because REST is REST, but there's languages on top of REST, right? Like what language are we speaking? What are our different resources that we're providing to people, and what do they actually mean, and how do they fit together? And they've got to figure all that stuff out for themselves right now, where if we provided an SDK, you know, suddenly you've got,
it's more like plug and play then.
Plug and play. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I've done various sorts of things like that. Bayer and like climate agriculture tech. It's more of like a different kind of beast. It's my first time working in the agriculture state as well. But I've also worked in open source government contracting projects where everything that we published needed to be like every application or platform that we had, mobile health platform, that needed to be like an SDK that could get published so different hospitals can use it, veteran affairs medical centers and stuff like that. That was an enclosure, but that's where I got some SDK exposure, and then now I have some SDK exposure here at Bayer too. Yeah, man, it sounds super exciting. You guys are definitely very, very skilled. I do like it. And like the functional thing, like I'm super happy that I love it. I just wish, more people would be like us and demystify it with meetups, right?
Yeah.
Like just keep teaching people. But it is a labor of love.
Yes.
Like having to prepare this and then like strip it. Were you there when I was talking about stripping the I was like, man, like am I gonna get in trouble for having this artifactory shit inside of my
Right.
project Shields in?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, shit, dude, I'm so sorry, but like I need to like do this quick, right? And like,
Yeah.
you know, and I didn't even have a PowerPoint, but I had to have something visual, right? Like PowerPoints are like, what the hell, dude? Why is there a PowerPoint? It should be like
Yeah.
REPLs, but like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Like
had
this
to
isn't
do
a business presentation; it's an engineering presentation, right? What are you doing?
yeah, so I had like I'm switching between 4 screens, and we had like this time where like the screen was black, so it's like hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, this
Thank
is
you, great, man. That was
No,
awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah, it was a good presentation. I enjoyed it.
yeah. So let me know if you need some volunteer help, or you know, I'm on a contract that ends in December, so you know, if you
I asked
guys
an
are,
important
you know,
question, Zubair. Have you ever been to Utah?
I have not been to Utah, but I've worked with people that live in Provo, actually.
Oh, they live in Provo.
Yeah. Guy's name
Provo
was
is a
Garth
great city.
Fielding.
What's that?
Provo is a great city. So I worked with this gentleman. His name was Garth Fielding. He was a Java wizard, but he would never touch anything else. Like he probably won't even do Spring Boot. Like he's like Java Spring Boot. But this guy, man, he's like, he could probably do Spring Boot, but like he's hardcore, man. This guy was a wizard, man. This guy was pumping out. Like I would say he was doing like 4 devs worth of work, but it was also like a government project. So like in the real commercial space, I would say he was doing 2 devs worth of work. Because you know, like gov contracting and like commercial, it's like 2 different things, man. It's
dude,
like
believe me,
someone in like a
Yeah, we do tax compliance, so we get that for sure. That's 2 different worlds, man. It's crazy.
Right, man. Like, and someone in a government contract, when they said they're going to get a cup of coffee, they're like going to get the cup of coffee, coming back to their chair, sipping it, and like finish drinking it. Then they're gonna write code.
Yeah.
Someone in the space like us, we go get the coffee, we're sipping it, waiting for it to cool down, setting up our function, writing up doc strings for our function. How many arguments is it going to take? Like
we
all this stuff.
We have a rule that you don't get your coffee till you start your build. That's our rule.
Right. Like you push something, you push your PR out, and then you go get your coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. You know, we'll stay in touch and let you know as we grow the team and hire for some more positions. For sure.
Yeah, startups don't really start off with a dedicated like SDET data engineer role, right?
Right.
They usually start off with like
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely, you know, it's funny because we actually, and I told Brian this, I like to hire people that come from with backgrounds like that into engineering roles, because I feel like they bring more than just you know, the developer mentality to the role. You know, usually if you hire somebody, it's like we got one guy that we hired out of kind of an SRE position, site reliability, you know, and his goal was to be a developer, a product developer, and he wanted to do that. Well, the cool thing is now we've got a dev that can do SRE work, you know, so people that can fill more than one role, wear more than one hat. That's really important to us.
Right. He's probably like a super ninja now too, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just like,
exactly.
like doing like all things. Have you guys ever heard of like this thing called Sauce Labs?
What is it?
Sauce Labs.
Sauce Labs. Oh yeah, I've heard of Sauce Labs. I don't know what they do though.
Yeah, they're like more prevalent in the front end automation space. I do some front end automation, but like front end automation is usually brittle. Like, I mean, I'm not being biased here, but it just really is, right? It doesn't give you bang. Yeah, it doesn't give you bang for your buck. But they had a podcast, and I was on that podcast talking about performance testing microservices. So I'm going to leave that there, and that's me using Gatling. I know you were like, are you working for Gatling? I'm like, no, but I might as well will be, because like I actually was on a podcast.
You're such a fan, because you're like a super fan, right?
I'm a super fan of like making sure that your service is highly available. We also use Splunk. I mean, I know like Splunk is expensive and like a lot of people don't use it, but I use Splunk and New Relic. Yeah,
Yeah.
do you guys use it or no? Are you guys?
We don't use Splunk here, but we definitely it's on our radar. And like, yeah, the problem with Splunk is definitely when you're a startup, it's costly, but like, you know, it pays for itself for log analytics, right? Because right now we're doing a lot of stuff that Splunk does, but we're doing it through CloudWatch, and it's a lot harder to parse logs using something like CloudWatch. So the other tool that we use is Scalar.
Scalar. Let me Google that.
Yeah, which is just a cheaper kind of version of Splunk.
What do you think about Elk? A friend of mine was telling me that he thinks that's a way better way to go than Splunk.
Well, yeah, Elk, you just have to run it yourself. Like, you have to run all the ops on it, so that's kind of a bummer. Like, for me, I avoid doing ops wherever possible, you know? Anywhere where I can get a hosted solution where they're going to do all the ops, they're going to run the servers, I'm going to do that.
Right.
So I'm very, very happy that you said that, Scott, because like ops to me is like, so do you want to know how we do DevOps? Like you're probably going to think this is good. So do you know about GitLab, right? It's just like Jenkins.
Yeah.
You've heard of like GitLab, right?
Yeah.
So GitLab has these like templates, right? And the templates have stages like a build, test, deploy, blah, 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 blase, blase. They built a template for us, a generic template, and it's up for us. Like basically it's up to me to do that template definition and like define how the stages are set up, the build stages, what runs in the build. After that, you run your Sonar. After you run your Sonar with the Clojure, it gets published to somewhere. It gives you your metrics, what kind of coverage you got.
So
then you run your unit test. Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question. Are you guys running Sonar for artifacts? Like as a Maven server?
Sonar for artifacts. Let me see.
Sorry,
yes,
Sonar.
we're doing Sonar Q for the artifact that we're going to build and publish it as a WAR file.
That's where it's published. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, that just stood out to me because we used Sonar at I worked at IHC, which is a big medical thing, and that's what they used for publishing all of their WAR files. Anyway, it was just a side note.
Yeah,
sorry.
so that's what. So when you're saying doing less ops as possible, I think good teams are set up that way. Where like DevOps is there to help you, but they're just basically providing like the template for you, and it should be like the dev teams because like it's our service, right? We need to own that part. You know what I mean? Exactly. And that's what I take joy in doing that too. Not as much as I take joy in like writing code, but like I do take some joy in doing that as well. But yeah, I left my Gatling talk there in the chat. If you look in the chat section,
okay, cool.
Take a look at that. That's me talking about performance testing microservices, and in that particular scenario, I go over rewriting a legacy service, and then like how I basically came up with an SLA. I came up with an SLA from scratch there, right? What I did was I went to New Relic for the old service, and I picked a high traffic time between 2 and 2:15 p.m., and I checked how many requests per millisecond that we were doing, right? And we basically had like 400 requests per MS, or like 400 requests per second. And I made sure that I built that in as a Gatling assertion and made a custom assertion out of that. So I thought that was cool. You guys could definitely do that, and you can add Gatling to your project CLJ and keep it moving that way. And it could be a part of the project, or it could sit alone in its own project, and it could run at the last stage as a downstream job in your Jenkins pipeline. Right, so you probably have like a whole, I guess like, you don't just run one job, right? That does everything, or do you have like several jobs that do?
Well, yeah, I mean, we take microservices to the extreme. I actually refer to it as molecular architecture. I mean, we've got, things divided down to a really small subset, like the smallest possible job that you can do without wasting time. And so it's crazy. So we don't have one Jenkins. We don't have one build for an environment. We build individual services and deploy them independent of everything else. And
perfect.
Yeah.
That's our goal, like climate. Have we reached that 100%, and are we really good at it? I would say 85%. or 80%. I don't want to, I'm not bad mouthing my own company, but we went from monoliths to microservices. So
Right.
breaking them up and getting them running the right way, you don't get the 100% out of it, right? And I don't want to like lie and say like, oh man, you know, our shit doesn't stink and we do it so good, you know, check us out, right? I mean, like at some extent you do feel like that, but like you're really not at that point. I mean, and if you think you're there, that means like you don't have a good perception on what, like, because you should always be improving. I mean, like even when you get to that point, you'll probably find something else that needs to get refactored, or you can.
The thing that I've learned is when you get to the point where you're really well split up into microservices, then it's a matter of redefining the boundaries between your services and kind of adjusting those so that you may actually start moving into a place where you get certain parts of your apps that are more monolithic, and you do that intentionally because it's, providing real value to do it that way. Maybe you're moving things into close proximity that talk to each other a lot to reduce, chattiness over your REST APIs or whatever. So yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was extremely good talking to you. I definitely want to stay in touch. I don't know what your contact info is or anything like that, but I will definitely stay in touch. Even if it's something like doing like a one-off project for free, man, or writing some stuff for free. I'm always down for that too. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so I just sent your podcast to the guy that's doing most of the load testing for our data ingestion services, and so yeah, I'll check it out and he'll check it out too, and we'll talk about it. As far as contact info, we're a small company, so everybody that's the first person that has their first name at the company gets their first name at taxbit.com. So I'm Scott at TaxBit. Brian is Brian at TaxBit. So yeah, I mean it's
okay. So Scott at taxbit.com. So SCOTT at taxbit.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, so I see you on LinkedIn, so I'll definitely add you there. So one thing about my podcast, it's going to give you a high-level overview of how I done it. But me, I'm more of like the proof is in the pudding. So if you ever want to like see it come to life, I would, if you got like a dummy endpoint or something, right? Or you got like anything like that's just like a regular URL, I could probably set something up and maybe send it back to you. And that's it. Then you could use it that way. Then you could switch out the URL and do whatever the hell you want.
That's great.
Yeah,
sounds really interesting. So I see that on there it says supported by SmartBear. Is it like is SmartBear a sponsor?
SmartBear is a sponsor. Sauce Labs is a sponsor. All these guys sponsor it. This is a cool podcast. A lot of people have been on there. Like the people that do Jest are on there. I haven't done much JavaScript, but like Jest is like super popular right now. And it's kind of what like that big buzz around Protractor. Do you remember Protractor? That's like old school, Like
I don't think I ever used Protractor. I'm not too familiar with that.
I haven't heard of that one either.
I didn't use it, but it was Angular's testing framework. You remember Angular's testing framework?
Yeah,
so now React has its own testing framework, which is called Jest, Jest.
Yeah.
See, we use Jest, so I know about Jest.
Jest is awesome. Jest is pretty popular. It's super fast, right? So it's like.
Right. Yeah. You know what else is cool? Here's something else that we did. Have you heard of Spectral? SPECTRAL?
Yeah, I actually have heard of Spectral.
So let's just say you got like open API spec and shit like that, right? You want to make sure that that's in like pristine condition, at all times, right? Because you're at a startup, you barely have time for anything, right? Anyway, right? So when someone makes a change to open API spec, Spectral will check all that for you and make sure that's always in line and styled the right way and good to go, right? So your docs are always in order, and docs are always like super like annoying to maintain. So you'll always have that to do that for you. I mean, that's something that I don't know, like maybe when, like you said, when you scale, you want to do that, but like I think it's great to have like open API specs.
Well, what's interesting about that is that we just barely kind of got our API development pipeline in order, where we've got, we use AWS API Gateway, and we actually we generate Open API docs, Open API 3, and we take those Open API docs and we import them into API Gateway, and we do change management on the docs, and then the docs actually generate the structure of the API, and then API Gateway exports all that stuff, and we use Postman for all of our documentation. And so we've got that entire pipeline. But the one thing that we don't have is we don't have a test step where we're actually testing the docs themselves. So that's interesting. And I'm making notes here as we talk.
That would be Spectral that'll do that. Now,
Yeah,
you can
that's
also
awesome.
do something else, right? Postman has collection, which runs Newman in the background, Neoman. You can use that to do that. I mean,
we do. We write some Newman tests, but that's kind of like after the fact, right? So because with our pipeline, the way it works is we generate those Open API docs based on the code that runs each. So we have these microservices, and each of them generates a little piece, a little snippet of the Open API stuff docs. And so each one of those services would have to run its own test prior to pushing it out to API Gateway, because once it pushes it to API Gateway, it becomes a fact. You know? And so, Postman is our final step. We push stuff into Postman, into their API docs server thing, whatever that's called. And then we can run Newman tests on it as like integration tests to make sure that everything finished successfully. But the step that I would like, where I would probably use Spectral, is in that step where that microservice generates its documentation. It would probably run that as part of its build to make sure that
that's right
before it published.
I was going to say you're wise beyond your years, because that's where it needs to run. Where you said it runs after the fact, and it's like rare that it'll happen, but after the fact means the damage is done, right?
That's right.
So if the damage is done, I mean, dude, I can just write you the same CLJ HTTP test that we talked about in my talk right here, right? If it's after the fact, then it's after the fact.
And that's why Newman doesn't really work for us, because Newman is like, Postman is the final step of our whole process. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's still good to have. I'm not going to say remove it, right?
No.
But also,
and we have those tests.
Yeah,
we have those Newman tests actually written and running. So, and you know, they run and they work. But yeah.
So quick question. Are you doing, so a lot of your tests are like, are you like a test pyramid where like most of them are like redef tests, Clojure redef tests, and then the rest of them are like Postman tests that run after that, or like CLJ HTTP test, or what are you doing in that sense?
So that's the interesting thing, is we're very technology and language agnostic, and so we have different stacks for each of these services. And we really have three main stacks. One is a JavaScript stack with Node, and we really don't have any APIs on services that run with Node right now. It's mostly like Lambda stuff. And then we've got Python, and our Python stuff is mostly legacy, and we're trying to kind of end of life it, but it was all using Django, and it was generating Open API docs with Django, and then running tests in something that I'm not a Python guy, so I don't remember what it was, but it was some Python Django API test framework. And then our other thing, our main service, which is like kind of the core of everything, is our ledger service. It does all of our calculations and all that kind of stuff. And that's where Brian was talking about running, you know, Cloverage and things like that. And I don't think we actually have any API tests for that at all. I don't know, Brian, did you look at that at all? Do you know?
I'm sorry, Scott, was it for running Cloverage?
Yeah, where you were showing earlier in the presentation, you were kind of showing the build process that Matt had set up.
Well, I was talking about it. I didn't show it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that was the thing. We're struggling, Scott. Where I was like, we can't show it because the guy's like, let me show me the CI/CD. You said you do CI/CD. It's like, dude, I would show you, but then they'd be super pissed that I showed you. You know what I mean? So it's like, let me just tell you what I do.
Just for the record, Brian, I would have been fine with that. So.
Okay, right on. It's good to know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If we're doing anything that like, you know, is showing somebody what we're doing would make them able to unseat us, then our product isn't good enough. So.
Right. But I work at like Bayer, and they're like super
Yeah.
stringent. They're like super like annoying, man. Like with
Yeah.
the like Clojure thing, like we can't find Clojure devs, so we can't do Clojure. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
then you need to open your horizon if you don't
Right.
find them, right?
Yeah,
And
bring
then
in a couple good Clojure devs and then hire some devs that are willing to learn it and teach them.
Hey Scott, we don't do the cloverage as for our APIs. We're just doing it.
No, that's what I was saying. I mentioned that in context where I said, you know, that you were talking about our build process. That is what the Ledger service does, but I don't think it's doing any API testing, is what I said.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So can I ask another question? So you said you got some like microservices, and the rest of them sound like lambdas, like you said, but they also sound like routines or processes that are running, putting stuff on queues, checking those, and then like okay, so we're doing something like that too. So not everything we have is a service. We have this thing that's an orchestrator that orchestrates data science linear regression models to run in the background. You can't call that service, right? And basically what it's doing, and this isn't proprietary information since I'm in the agriculture space, I'll tell you what we're doing. We're going back and checking what seeds you planted for the last 2 years, what season you planted them in, and then based on that, we're using a linear regression CPLEX models and the IBM thing to predict for you what a lift or how much more yield you can get if you use our seeds. Agriculture is more boring. So it's
I'm gonna blow your mind though. I'm gonna blow your mind though, because my neighbor, you know, we mentioned BYU earlier. That's a university that's here local in Provo. My next door neighbor works in their statistics department, and that's the research project that he works on is exactly what you just described.
Really?
Yep.
Cool.
And he's doing that, but he's also helping to write logistical programs that help to automate harvesting through satellite telemetry for, you know, automated
we have satellite imagery too, remote sensing imagery and telemetry, like you said. We haven't perfected that space yet, but we're working with Airbus. But like storage of the satellite data imagery costs a lot of money, so we're not sure if the R&D.
That's why, he's working on it as a research project, right? Because they're trying to figure out a way to kind of like commoditize that concept so that because the purpose that they have obviously is kind of altruistic, where they want to take that technology and introduce it into like third world countries where that's going to help them to solve hunger issues and things like that. So.
Right. So our you know how we have like every company has like its tagline? Our tagline is how do you feed 6 billion people by 2050?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically what you're saying, right? Like it's like the same thing. But that's cool. That's cool. Okay,
small
cool.
world.
So I mean it's a small world. So I guess you're doing
really interesting.
Oh, ag tech is interesting, right? I think the technology we're using to do things is interesting, but corn itself is not interesting. But the harvest part, like you said, harvest is interesting because harvest is your bottom line, right? It's like if I give you $2, how are you going to give me $2.30?
Yeah.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's all different pieces of increasing yield, though, right? So, I mean, it's all kind of interesting in that sense, but yeah, there's probably a lot of boring aspects to it when, you know, because there's so much data. Like it blew me away when he started sharing with me, you know, that they're processing terabytes of data per per day or per hour or whatever. So
per hour probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We are. Yeah, but man, super nice to meet you guys. I got your information. If there's any little side project that you want me to do, if anything opens up at TaxBit in the future that is kind of like in my lane, I would love to do it. I mean, I would love to come on board. You know, Provo's a great area. I'll always come down, chill out with you guys. You know what I mean? Sip that gourmet coffee.
We actually do have really good coffee in Provo. Awesome. There is Peace on Earth Cafe, and they're both a vodka, like they do craft vodka, I think, and craft coffee. So,
right,
yeah. What? Okay. Otherwise, in Utah, you don't get a lot of that.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
So what are you guys up to now? So are you guys gonna do you guys work like late, or you guys are like work-life balance?
We have pretty good balance, I think.
Fuck balance. Sorry.
It gets you done, right?
No, I'm doing some Bitcoin stuff tonight and some Ethereum stuff. So I'm stoked. I'm ready to go. Charged up. So
yeah, we have I almost feel like the engineers that we have in the projects that we're working on, we have to tell people not to work instead of the other way around.
Because we're doing cool stuff. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, something I guess Scott's kind of alluding to, like I wrote off Bitcoin for a long, long time till I joined here. And I'm like, why did I do that? I should not have done that. And you know, I think I first heard of it.
You still have time.
Ethereum, man. I think we're on the same page on Ethereum.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go do that.
So is Ethereum like Ethereum's blockchain, right? That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean everything. All of this stuff is backed by blockchain, and there's different implementations of blockchain and different coins that run on different things. But the reason so there's two major coins that are important. One is Bitcoin, and the reason Bitcoin's important is just because it's the one everyone knows about. And then Ethereum is important, not because people really know about it and trade it a lot, but because the blockchain that Ethereum is built on top of it enables you to do some cool functionality, like it enables you to literally write out contracts where there's code that enables certain actions to take effect based on other things happening. So you have kind of like automated fulfillment of conditions on either side of a trade, as an example, or you've got a money transfer where you need to transfer a ton of money overseas, and it doesn't happen until it's received in the bank account of the other party. Things like that, and you can actually write that in code and define it and automate it and put it on the blockchain, and Ethereum manages that for you.
Oh, dude, that's like
so there's some.
That's like
that's
next level. That's
it is next level. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, man, I like chilling with you guys. You know what I thought this meetup was going to be about? I thought it was going to be just you, Brian, that knew what you were doing, Jacob, and everyone else would be people that want to just know what Clojure is. Because I wasn't sure, but like here I am, and I'm coming in chilling with you guys, and it's like you guys know the shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's good, right? And it's very refreshing.
I was worried about that at first, but I thought about it, and it's like, one of our original stated goals when we first started the meetup group was to give presentations like kind of at exactly the level that you gave. Like, here's how to type in your project.clj, and here's what it's doing. So I was like, that is awesome, because we've not had that since we've started. And my tendency is to always go gravitate toward the more theoretical domain. And it's like, okay, you're losing people and you're losing the purpose of the group, to the point where we started this idea of like a special interest group. Category theory is like it's a drug for me.
I did watch that talk though. I did like it. Now, what did I say my goal was, guys? If you weren't there in the beginning, I'll tell you again. My goal is to demystify Clojure now. I think people are making it harder than it really is, and it's really just easier than what everything else is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you did a really good job tonight, Zubair, of recentering us around that goal. So I really thank you and really appreciate that you did that. And to remember, like, why are we here? Because it really is like our true and most fundamental, and I feel like legitimate purpose that we originally sort of laid out was like, okay, by building the community, you build a labor pool, which then solidifies or solves the problem for companies and managers, people like Scott, of like, okay, we're going to do this in Clojure. Like, and to know like he's not insane when he says that, and any other company, or to be able to go to another company and say like, hey, I use Clojure here. There are a lot of good developers. By the way, there's this group, so I feel like it's really important to develop that kind of the ability for managers to have confidence in taking on an element of risk in programming projects.
So what Scott and like other hiring managers want is like, I also would say like, and I'm not just saying this because you brought it up, they want polyglots. Like, do you think I'm just doing Clojure? I'm doing Clojure. I'm doing Scala, and I'm doing PyTest. I'm doing PyTest to validate the models, the linear regression. Do you think anyone wants me to write the solution I want in my language, or they want me to be versatile enough to write it? Because look, if we're going to do the data science models, then we're going to write that in Python. Like, you know, you got your Django stuff. I would never in a million years write that in Scala. That would be retarded.
It would be retarded. And that's the
It would be
retarded. Like the level of elegance. It's like, okay, now I get it. I understand why does one language own an entire wave of trend? And then you look at the internal architecture of NumPy, and it's like, okay, understood. You know,
also
understood, right?
From the polyglot perspective, the point, you know, really comes down to using the right tool for the right job, because you know, the reality is that you know, in the several decades, you know, during the 70s and 80s and most of the 90s even, you know, you built your team around the idea that we chose a language and we're going to use that language come hell or high water, and we're going to hire a bunch of people that are experts in the language. And what I always say to people when I talk about this is like, it's like saying I'm going to start a carpentry business and our expertise is going to be hammer, you know? Like, what the hell can you do with hammer? Are you going to use your hammer for every single job that you have to do? And when
you can't do it for everything, like you said.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that, the polyglot mentality is important.
Yeah. You know?
Right.
So cool, Zubair. Hey, it was really great meeting you tonight, man. Let's get in touch on how we'll get your stuff up on GitHub, and then I'll also post this video up on our YouTube channel, so we'll get that up there.
Yeah, let's do that, and then let's definitely stay in touch, all of us. I mean, this was just great.
Man. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay,
I'll speak to you guys later.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
All right, Scott. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.